Hello, and welcome to Challenges Facing Ohio's Mathematics Leaders, the third webcast in the Meeting the Challenges of the Ohio Core series. Today we will focus on challenges Ohio's mathematics programs and teachers face as they prepare students to meet increased graduation requirements for mathematics. My name is Ann Meixel, and I am a consultant for mathematics projects at the Ohio Resource Center for Mathematics, Science, and Reading. Our goal is to model professional conversation among mathematics supervisors and leaders about issues they are facing at the building, district, regional, and state levels. Be sure to explore the support materials related to today's topic, including an article, a viewer's guide, and a mini collection to help you continue this conversation with your colleagues. Soon all Ohio students will be required to earn 4 units of credit in high school mathematics, including Algebra 2 or its equivalent. These increased requirements are intended to prepare all students to meet the demands of the workplace and college. The first students required to meet the Ohio Core requirements will enter the 8th grade in the fall of 2009. The implications of the Ohio Core for mathematics programs at all levels are many and far-reaching, especially for those providing leadership in mathematics. Our panelists for today's discussion are Kim Yoke, the K-8 mathematics specialist for Stowe-Monroe Falls City Schools. Kim has taught 7th and 8th grade mathematics and is currently serving as the president of the Ohio Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Carl Jones, mathematics consultant for the Darke County Educational Service Center. Carl has taught high school mathematics for 20 years and has been a mathematics curriculum consultant at Darke County Educational Service Center for 11 years. He is a past president of OMELC and facilitates the State Mathematics Supervisors Group. Brian Roget, assistant director for mathematics at the Ohio Department of Education. Before joining the department, Brian taught middle and high school mathematics at Dayton Public Schools for 13 years. Welcome, Kim, Carl, and Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mathematics leaders are facing many challenges. I'm reminded of a quote. Part of teaching is learning how to tolerate ambiguity, consider possibilities, and ask questions that are unanswerable. I think we would all agree that leading a mathematics program is also learning how to tolerate ambiguity, consider possibilities, and ask questions that often seem unanswerable. Addressing the implications of the Ohio Core requirements is one of the areas in which leaders are currently dealing with lots of ambiguity, possibilities, and many questions that are not easily answered. Carl, what issues are high school mathematics programs facing in response to more students having to take more mathematics, and what strategies are you using at the Educational Service Center to assist districts?
Well, Ann, as you can imagine, high school teachers are pretty apprehensive about the challenge of getting all their students through Algebra 2 or a similar course. And the first thing I remind them is to take a look and see who's already at that level. In some schools this may be as low as 30%, but in others it may be as high as 90%. By looking at that baseline figure, you can at least have a starting point to know what the strategies are going to be and how far you're going to have to go to get 100% of your students through that level. Next, we have to look at strategies to make that curriculum, that coursework, more accessible to more students. And it really reminds me of the same problem we had, say, 20 years ago when we were looking at the same challenge of getting all of our students through Algebra 1. At the time, we thought it was not possible, and yet with the Ohio graduation test, we do get all students through that kind of curriculum. I think we do that by making the coursework and the content more application and content-driven. We open it up and get more hands-on and more experiences with the mathematics. And we have to teach some things in some more non-traditional ways. Another thing I think that helps is the technology that's been evolving and changing the way we teach over the years. The technology allows us to make things more visual. It allows us to see many more examples sometimes in a shorter period of time. So by the use of computers and graphing calculators, scientific probes, and all of those kinds of issues, It's changed the way we look at mathematics, and it's even taken some of those mundane things that we used to have to do with paper and pencil and looking up in tables and made them obsolete. So looking at all these things in combination, it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's one that we can meet as the time goes on.
Kim, what issues are elementary and middle school mathematics programs facing, and what strategies are you using as a mathematics specialist to assist teachers?
Well, and elementary and middle school teachers are primarily focused on developing different types of mathematical reasoning in students. Number sense, spatial reasoning, algebraic reasoning, problem-solving reasoning, and all of these with the idea of helping students to eventually meet the requirements of the Ohio Core. One of the challenges that districts face in doing that is finding high-quality textbooks that are aligned with the Ohio Academic Content Standards and focused on developing those different types of reasoning. And some issues related to that can be funding, just literally having the finances available to purchase a different textbook series, as well as finding textbooks that are acceptable to the various stakeholders involved: parents, administrators, board members, teachers, and of course students. So that's certainly one challenge. I think another challenge that districts face is helping teachers to really be aware of all students' thinking in classes and involving all students in mathematical activity. It's sometimes easy to focus on the few students who might be participating or volunteering a lot, and in order to really serve all students, we have to be sure that we are engaging every one of them and making sure we're aware of their mathematical understanding and interpretations. So our district, and I know many other districts, are starting to use the idea of coaches and specialists to support elementary and middle school teachers, not only in content knowledge, but also in these pedagogical strategies that really focus on all students and not just a few students. And we just believe that collaborative time for teachers is an absolute must. Teachers need to be able to talk about these challenges that they're facing and to share ideas and to really support each other. And we feel that this is one of the best ways to really help teachers to meet that challenge.
Brian, what strategies is the Ohio Department of Education using to assist mathematics programs and leaders as they make changes in response to the Ohio Core requirements?
One of the main ways is through professional development. We have a lot of different professional development activities and partnerships that we have worked with through the Math Initiatives projects, as well as our Math Science Partnership projects. One of the Math Science Partnership projects that we have is the Math Coaches Project through The Ohio State University, where they work with teacher leaders to develop their understanding of mathematics pedagogy, good instruction, but also how to work alongside of teachers. And then these coaches are then placed into classrooms where they are work alongside of and demonstrate and model good examples of what instruction should be. We also have at the high school level where we've collaborated with the Ohio Resource Center in putting out some resources related to the program models as well, which are examples of how you can progress through the high school with looking at topics. There are 3 different models represented there, but then there's a lot of resources that the Ohio Resource Center has developed that goes along to give some support. We also have the Ohio Assessment pilot project, a performance assessment project that we are starting to pilot this year, and we will continue over the next year, that looks at changing the way we look at assessment within the high school and looking at it in a more performance-based approach. So there are multiple different programs. I mentioned the Math Initiatives. There's a lot of some lesson study projects and some other projects that are going on that really focus on developing instruction and instructional leadership within the districts and within the buildings.
Making mathematics accessible for all students is a critical component of the mathematics program's success in meeting the challenge of the Ohio Core. A statement in the discussion of the equity principle in NCTM's Principles and Standards for School Mathematics sums this challenge for us. All students, regardless of their personal characteristics, backgrounds, or physical challenges, must have opportunities to study and support to learn mathematics. Carl, what strategies are you using to help districts look at the current status of their mathematics program and to make sure students stay on track on meeting the increased graduation requirements?
Well, anytime we work with teachers, a couple of the things that we always want to work on is their content knowledge of mathematics, and then also their pedagogical skills, and that in delivering the content to students. Both of those items are critical. You got to know what your content area is, and again, the best ways to deliver it. But another thing that we've really been focused on, and we think is critical, is we've been focusing on the formative assessment of Dylan William and Paul Black. And their research essentially points out that if formative assessment is used effectively, as how they describe it, you can essentially do twice as much learning in a year as those that do not use it. And formative assessment, as they describe it in a nutshell, is taking every day and assessing those students and knowing exactly what students got the information that you were trying to get across to them and which ones did not. And then doing something immediately about it, the next day, the next lesson, addressing any kind of gaps that you see. If you wait till the chapter test, or if you wait till the short cycle assessment, if you wait till whatever's down the road, it's many times too late. And those students just tend to fall a little bit more behind. They fall behind by 10 minutes, by a day, by a week, by a year, and then they become frustrated with the content. We need to learn to use these assessment processes to actually increase a student and a child's confidence in mathematics, instead of using assessment to destroy their confidence in mathematics.
Brian, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, that whole idea of the formative assessment is a really it's a hard concept for many teachers to get, because there's still this whole issue and frustration, I think, of formative assessment versus the grading. And many times teachers still want to. And one of the things I think that teachers and teacher leaders really need to work on is how do we move forward with that? How do we really get to the mathematical understanding that students have, rather than, oh, I have to put this into my grade book, and it's, you know, it's for a grade, and really focusing on the mathematics, like you said. And I think that's a big issue that we deal with and have to continue to deal with.
Kim, what strategies is your district using to support student learning and to provide prompt intervention?
Well, first of all, specifically for students with identified disabilities, we are using an inclusion model at many of our buildings, and particularly our 7th and 8th grade building. We essentially use full inclusion in mathematics and language arts, and so students are in the regular classroom with an intervention specialist as well as the regular ed teacher. And what we're finding is that it builds students' confidence in mathematics, in their learning abilities in general, and it has increased our OAT scores for that population of students, which is wonderful. All of that is a great thing to see. Certainly we believe that if an inclusion model is to work effectively, the teachers must have time to co-plan, and that they should be co-teaching, not just sort of one teacher and then someone else in the classroom. And if that's the case, then we found that it works fairly well. And we do have some situations in our elementaries where we're using inclusion as well, and again, it's been very effective, but there it's a little bit more difficult just practically to allow it to happen. So we work toward that. We do have resource rooms as well. More generally, as we've all mentioned, it's just so important to continually involve all students in the mathematics that's going on in the classroom, and as both Carl and Brian have mentioned, to make sure that we are assessing students, particularly in a formative way, very regularly. And one of the things that we are really working on in our district is the use of exit tickets. And exit tickets are basically a way of providing a very short task at the end of a classroom lesson that will allow the teacher to determine what students understand, maybe what misconceptions exist, and then to literally guide instruction the following day based on that. It's not meant to be anything lengthy, and different examples of exit tickets might be more open-ended, they might be more closed-ended, but at the same time we're not just looking for a single answer. We're looking for thinking to be shown, so that the teacher really has a good idea of different students' interpretations of the concepts that are involved. And then across our district, in terms of the need for response to intervention, which is a federal mandate that all districts are challenged with right now, and I do use that word intentionally because I think it is a challenge given that there are not a lot of commercially produced resources available right now that really help us to collect data about students' mathematical thinking. And so we are working, we've been using some diagnostic interviews with a sample of students in our district this past year, and those are helping us to really get a sense of those students' mathematical thinking and then to be able to collect data and intervene based on the results of those interviews. So our hope for this coming school year is that we will have a set of tasks that can be used, some as universal screening tasks and then others as diagnostic and intervention tasks throughout the school year, again to collect data and to meet the requirements of the RTI mandate.
We have referenced the need for students to become reflective learners and a variety of intervention strategies. You may wish to access the PRIME Prompt Intervention in Mathematics publication available on the ORC website. This publication includes information about research-based intervention strategies. We have talked about two important issues mathematics leaders are facing, the Ohio Core and intervention. What other issues are mathematics leaders facing, Brian?
One of the other ones that's coming up right now is the pending standards revision that we're looking at. Over the last year and a half, we've been doing a international benchmarking with looking at 6 other countries, high-performing countries. We've been looking at England, Singapore, Japan, Finland, Hong Kong, and the Netherlands, and looking at what they have, what's in their standards, and comparing it to what's in our standards. First off, one positive thing is that we're teaching the right content. The content is the same pretty much across all these countries and what we have in Ohio. The difference comes in that they are much more focused at different grade levels on what they teach. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, as we look at this standards revision, is taking a different way and reorganizing kind of in effect of what we have, kind of a more focal point type look, where especially at the kindergarten through 8th grade or pre-kindergarten through 8th grade, we're looking at several big ideas at each grade level and then tying those and seeing how there's topics within those big ideas that cut across the grade levels. For example, whole number operations is something that starts usually around 1st grade and goes to about 4th, 5th grade. And that's where we do a lot of the focus on that number of operations, where fractions may be really the formal instruction or study of fractions doesn't begin until 3rd grade and ends around 6th, 7th grade. So we're looking at, reorganizing and giving some focus of what is it that we really want to focus on at those grades. At the high school, we're looking more towards a course-driven, much like the program models. And so we'll be looking at developing course syllabi and those topics that continue on up into high school. And so this is going to be, as we make this change, re-looking at what we're teaching, and hopefully it'll help narrow and focus the instruction within the classroom. So rather than trying to cover all of the mathematics at a certain grade level, that we really show the linkage to these other big topics and big ideas. A second thing that we have is really a big topic is also trying to change the focus from teaching test questions to really teaching the mathematics. And we're hoping that the standards will influence that as well, the standards revision, in that we really focus on what is the mathematics students need to know and learn so that they can perform well, whether it's on a performance assessment within a classroom, a statewide assessment, or something else that may come along their way. So those are the two big ideas I think that we're facing right now.
Kim?
Well, I think one great challenge for all mathematics education leaders is to provide professional growth opportunities that allow teachers to collaborate on an ongoing basis about significant issues of teaching and learning. One thing that I have said a lot recently is that when teachers are together, we're usually not teaching. And so that makes it difficult for teachers to really learn from each other in terms of what they do in their classrooms. And so a question that I've posed recently is, how do we create essentially simulated environments in professional development opportunities that are like classroom situations, so that we really can talk about the decisions that teachers make on a daily basis in their own classroom. And some ideas that have come out of those discussions have been, well, first of all, one is the idea of examining student work together as teachers, and we've done some of that in our district, and it's so helpful for teachers to really sit down and look at student work samples and look at what students understand or appear to understand, what misconceptions might exist, and then really to look at how they would design instruction for the next day that would respond to the different understandings that students have. Also, certainly watching videos of classrooms is very helpful. You know, when teachers watch videos of classrooms, we can stop the video in the middle and say, what would you do at this point in this classroom situation? What would you say as the teacher? How would you respond to this student? What does it seem like that student might be thinking? And in that case, what would you do next? And again, what is the class saying as a whole? What does the class seem to be understanding, and how would you guide instruction the following day? And then finally, something that we've done just a little of in our own district this year, and we'd like to try to explore ways to do more of, is the idea of co-teaching or peer coaching. And this doesn't involve taking a teacher out of a classroom full-time, but it involves setting up pairs of teachers that can periodically co-teach with each other. And so it involves some creative scheduling. But in a little of this that we've been able to do in our district, what we found is that it's so helpful for both of the teachers as well as the students, because the teachers can reflect together, can literally reflect in the middle of the lesson if they need to, but also afterwards, of course, and it's beneficial for the students as well, because they have two perspectives from two teachers, and multiplies their learning opportunities.
Carl?
And one thing I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about lately is how we can grow leadership. I think sometimes we think that leadership just kind of happens by accident, that somebody's either born with a leadership gene or, you know, they're thrown into it by accident. I think we need to sometimes be more purposeful about how we grow and encourage leaders. I guess I was very fortunate early in my career. I had a mentor that helped me in my classroom instruction by supporting me and modeling for me some of the best things that I should be doing, because obviously I made lots of mistakes. Later on in my career, I had another person who helped me see the mathematics education outside of my classroom. He literally opened doors for me that I was at the time fortunate enough to walk through, and I had opportunities that I never would have had I just stayed in the classroom. I feel indebted to these two men and feel that it's, quite honestly, it's my duty to help others with the same kinds of opportunities, trying to give people opportunities that they may not have if they're just stuck in the classroom. I believe that all people have a leadership potential, because there's different levels of leadership, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's at the district level, at the state level. We all have different ways in which we affect those leadership things. Some people see a leadership job as a way to get more money or more prestige or something like that, but I think the real leaders are the ones that know when to lead and when not to lead. Even the classroom teacher knows, even though they're in charge of the classroom, there are times to step back and let the students and the children take charge and kind of control the situation for themselves, because that's really the way they become independent learners and grow to be productive adults. So this being purposeful about growing leadership, I think, is a good thing, because there's just no such thing as having too many good leaders.
Ohio mathematics leaders play many roles in supporting high-quality mathematics programs for Ohio students. One of those is serving as a catalyst for change. A catalyst is defined as a stimulus to change, someone or something that makes a change happen or brings about an event. A key characteristic of a catalyst is that it modifies and increases the rate of a reaction or change without being consumed in the process. Let's talk about some of the resources available to leaders to help us not be consumed in the process of leading. Ohio has a number of organizations that provide support to mathematics leaders. Kim, please tell us about the resources and support available from the Ohio Council of Teachers of Mathematics.
Okay. Well, first I'll mention that all of the information that I'll share is available on our website, so I encourage people to visit our website. The Ohio Council of Teachers of Mathematics, or OCTM, is an organization of 3,500 mathematics educators at all levels, all over Ohio. And we serve teachers by providing engaging professional opportunities throughout the year, networking opportunities, and we also advocate for policies and practices that really value teacher thinking as well as student thinking in mathematics. Our tangible resources, or a couple of our tangible resources that we provide for members, one of them is a semi-annual journal, and it is a peer-reviewed journal, and we're very proud of it. We provide articles actually by authors from all over the country, not just Ohio, but it serves mathematics teachers at all levels. It's very user-friendly, and it just provides a lot of ideas for teachers to use in their classrooms. We also have a newsletter for members which provides updates of information about mathematics education all over Ohio. But in terms of our professional opportunities, we have an annual conference, which I would say is one of the most exciting professional opportunities in Ohio every year. And the information about each year's conference is available at our website. But it's just a terrific time for teachers to be able to gather, to learn from each other, to share ideas, to network, and to be refreshed to go back into the classroom and to meet these challenges that we're facing. One of the other first-time events that we've had this year, actually, is our Emerging Leaders Conference, and we're very excited about that, and we've kind of talked about the idea of how do we develop leaders. But this event was for novice teachers as well as pre-service teachers, and we really believe that this is a group that we need to grow because they will be the future of our profession, and so we're excited about continuing that opportunity in the future. OCTM divides the state into 8 regions, and in 7 of those 8 regions during the next school year we will be having regional events, and the reason that we will only have them in 7 is that the 8th will have the annual conference, and so we want to be able to provide an OCTM event in every one of the 8 regions of Ohio during the following school year, so that teachers have access to OCTM events even if they're not able to attend the annual conference. So we're excited about sponsoring those for the first time. One of the other initiatives that we are beginning in 2009-2010 is a series of special interest groups, and we're taking this term from a couple of other organizations. But these special interest groups, some of them will be book groups, some of them will be mentor-novice type groups, and some of them will simply be groups that get together to talk about various issues and topics related to mathematics education at different levels. But these groups will primarily be facilitated via the internet and possibly phone conference. And we want to be able to provide access to OCTM involvement to teachers who can't necessarily come to events and who can literally sit at their own desk in their own house and participate in a professional conversation. I mentioned the role of advocacy that OCTM feels it's very important for us to play as an organization. We do believe that we need to be advocating strongly for practices that, again, that value teacher and student thinking. And some other of our initiatives that we sponsor every year, student scholarships for college students that are majoring in mathematics education. We honor excellence in teaching through a series of teacher awards each year. We have a student mathematics tournament every spring. And one of the things we're really excited about right now is to be redeveloping our website into an interactive, secure website that will allow for online membership, registering for events online, as well as discussion boards and blogs, and really moving OCTM into the Web 2.0 environment.
The Ohio Mathematics Education Leadership Council provides a forum for mathematics leaders at the school, district, region, college and university levels to come together to discuss and inform issues affecting mathematics programs and leaders, as well as share information about the various leadership initiatives going on across the state. OMELC typically meets 2 times a year, once in conjunction with the OCTM annual conference in the fall and again in the spring. Carl, you help facilitate the Mathematics and Science Supervisors Group. Please share about this informal organization.
Yeah, and myself and my colleague Dave Shellhouse each share this facilitation. I help facilitate the mathematics and he the science. Anybody that's interested in this group can contact us by email, and we can get you the dates of the meetings. We usually meet twice a year, late September and usually early May. And we meet here in Columbus, which we figure is the most central for around the state. We keep it informal, and by that we mean two things, actually. To become a member, all you have to do is show up at one meeting, and we make you a lifelong member. And secondly, we keep the agenda open. Anybody can submit items to the agenda. So even though we have the Ohio Department come and update us on things that are being updated at the state level across, we also allow all of the participants there to submit agenda items. So if they have issues that are going on at their school district or in their region and would like to share those or see other points of view, we allow that to happen. And so it's just been a nice discussion group and a good supporting network of each other that's worked out well.
Brian, what resources and support does the Ohio Department of Education provide to mathematics leaders?
There are several different resources that the Ohio Department of Education produces or collaborates with other groups to create. The first one that I want to mention is what's called the Ides of ODE, which comes out on the 15th of each month. It's a newsletter that is a collaboration between the Office of Assessment and the Office of Curriculum and Instruction. So it deals with what's going on with the Ohio Achievement Test as well as the Ohio Graduation Test, what will be going on with the standards this next year. So it'll be one of those newsletters that a lot of people are going to want information about and be signed up for. The other one is what's called Tools for Teachers. This is another one that comes out regularly on a monthly basis that gives information and some tips and ideas for teachers to be able to use. We also have collaborated with ORC on some different projects and some tools and for example, like I mentioned before, the program models. There's a lot of tools that are available through that that we have collaborated with. We also have a lot of things related to assessments, to parents and student tools that have been developed over the years that we also have available on our website. The other aspect that we have is getting out and doing the presentations. Getting out to OCTM at the annual conference each year and presenting. We show up at OMELC and the Math Science Supervisors as well, and being able to give that information and update people on what's going on. We try to also to be available within at our office for phone calls and emails. There's many times where people don't realize that we are reachable. That if you have a question that is maybe you're not quite sure about, please give us a call, send us an email. I mean, there's many times I know Carl will have a question and he'll type up and say, what about this? And I'll get it and a quick short email, and I give them a response back. So we want to make sure that people realize that we are available for information and a resource for them to use to help them become better leaders within their districts.
Brian, you mentioned a number of collaborations between the Ohio Department of Education and the Ohio Resource Center over the years that have provided a number of valuable resources for mathematics leaders. The PRIME, Prompt Intervention in Mathematics Education initiative, the program models, the tools for looking at programs, the program audit tools, and last summer's mathematics literacy workshop. But none of those would have been possible without the contribution of Ohio's mathematics leaders. A new resource specifically for mathematics leaders is the PRIME Leadership Framework, Principles and Indicators for Mathematics Education Leaders, published by the National Council of Supervisors of Mathematics. The authors provide discussion and tools to support 3 stages of leadership, including those who are classroom-based and recognized for their teaching and learning skills, those who provide leadership and collaborate with a team of teachers at a building or district level, and those whose scope of influence, leadership, and responsibilities are expanded to district, regional, and national levels. Kim, what resources have you found to be particularly helpful in your role as a mathematics specialist?
Well, I think the resource that's been most valuable to me is collaboration. I know that when I started in the position that I'm in our district right now 5 years ago, I was just so glad to be able to talk to colleagues in nearby districts who served in similar positions and who had been serving in similar positions and could give me some advice on some of the goals that we were beginning to work on that they had already worked on for a few years. So it was just incredibly helpful, and I'm not sure how I would have gotten through those first couple of years without their help. More generally, certainly professional organizations have always been a critical part of my professional growth. OCTM, of course, OMELC, the Math Science Supervisors Group, NCTM, NCSM, and all of these, it's really the people in these organizations that are just so helpful to have as resources in my leadership and my career. And certainly I also very much appreciate the resources that these organizations provide, the books, the journals, the publications. I don't think I could serve as effectively in my leadership roles if it were not for these resources and also the collaboration with colleagues locally and statewide and nationally.
Carl, as an experienced leader in an educational service center, what resources would you recommend to your colleagues?
Well, I think Kim has summed it up very well. You have the people, which is paramount. The more people you network with, the better it is. You have the professional organizations. Sometimes teachers, though, at a classroom level find it difficult to get to the meetings or to network with the people when they're so busy in their classroom. But the one thing you can always do is you can read. And there are books out there. Kim mentioned the journals and the different publications from these professional magazines or professional groups. But there's many others out there. And I think you need to read everything you can get your hands on. That's always one source that you can rely on. And I'm going to use a quote, and I don't know who to credit it to, but the person said that if you don't have time to read, you don't have time to lead. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Brian, what resources would you recommend?
One of the main ones that I found through my teaching career was getting to professional development opportunities. I tried to take advantage of every type of professional development, always realizing that I could better myself and obtaining additional knowledge. The second one that I would say was both within my teaching career and at the Ohio Department of Education is identifying that mentor. Who's that person that I see as a great example of leadership, has those leadership qualities that I admire, and to work with them and have them come alongside and help you. They many times also have help with the connections, making the collaboration, because they have been in that position and know how to help you make those connections. They also know the things to read. They've read a lot of them, they're reading, and so you find out, oh, what are you reading? And it allows you to, that person to come alongside of you and really influence you and help you with that leadership. Those are two of the big things. And just becoming aware of what's going on. We can't live and teach within our classrooms. So many times we get in there and we get teaching and we're not aware of what's going on around. And we really need to look at what's going on at the building level, district level, state level, and national level. And now we need to say global level, what's going on around the world, and being familiar with that and reading, finding out information, what's going on, going to the OCTM and hearing what's going on at the different levels. So those are things that I would say are the resources.
Well, as we conclude our conversation about issues Ohio mathematics leaders are facing, I'd like to ask each of you to share one last brief comment or piece of advice. We'll start with you, Carl.
Well, in summary, I guess that everyone should strive to improve their leadership skills and their leadership opportunities and to use them. No matter what level you are, there's leadership potential in everyone.
Brian, anything you'd like to share?
I would say just seek out that excellent mentor and just model them.
Kim, one final comment?
Well, I have a very strong belief that the heart of teaching and learning lies in the daily interactions among teachers and students. And as mathematics education leaders, we have to find really effective ways to support teachers in that work that they do every day. And we have to consider teachers an integral part of the educational process, all the way from broad-scale policy making to individual daily lesson planning.
Well, thank you, Kim, Carl, and Brian, for participating in this webcast and sharing your expertise with Ohio's mathematics leaders.
Thank you for having us here.
Today we talked about current issues facing Ohio's mathematics leaders. We have also shared strategies and resources to support our colleagues in meeting these challenges. Thank you for your participation. We've only scratched the surface of these topics. Additional information and supporting materials can be found on the Mathematics Meeting the Challenges of the Ohio Core link on ORC's Mathematics Educator page on ORC's website. If you would like to learn more about these topics, please contact ORC. We would be happy to work collaboratively with you to plan building or district-wide professional development programs. For the Ohio Resource Center, I'm Ann Meixel, wishing you success with all of your work in mathematics teaching, learning, and leading.